Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we are outside in the fresh sunshine, in the fresh air, in the spring grass with all the birds, all a flurry. It is the spring of the year and we are taking it outside, getting warmed by the sun's rays. It feels so good to be in the natural air. It's a perfect balance of warm and cool and breeze and still. And I hope you're able to hear and see this video. Okay, so we are zooming in and focusing in today on a great viewer question. And that was that her father, who is really sort of very covert narcissistic, in other words, he really lacks empathy in the family with regards to how he relates to particularly our viewer, who is his daughter, his mother. And so there's really kind of a dynamic going on where when they kind of get into a spat, they tend to give each other the silent treatment. But yet he doesn't do it to her mother, and so she feels like there's this very uncomfortable, really what I would call a dysfunction going on in the relationship. And she's asking, why does this occur between she and her father and maybe not the father and mother? And how is this all kind of correlated? How is this making sense? Why does this perpetuate in their relationship? And I'll have you know this, that functionality will continue to fuel itself. So particularly either organizations or families or relationships where there's an ongoing maladaptive, maladjustment, sort of a shutting down of communication. The dysfunctional people will make each other more dysfunctional. So when one uses this sort of silent treatment or with the intent to be manipulative or to shut them down or to be angry and pout and be regressive and immature, that can then perpetuate and just keeps the same dysfunctional going. So the functions can like travel in families, the functions can travel in work environments. You know, there is all sorts of dysfunction that can be perpetuated in these tight circles where either someone doesn't stop doing what they're doing or begin to really kind of look at things from a new perspective, a new angle, a new state of consciousness. And when you're in a relationship with a covert narcissist, it's very difficult because you have to serve to kind of be on their level, and you serve to, basically then go into a situation where you're having to operate on a dysfunctional level, and then that can then spill over really, and what I feel is what's stored in the body. So in terms of being stored in the body, meaning the way that you feel about yourself, particularly with someone who, like a father or someone in your school or your work or maybe your community, where you feel that you're not good enough, and then you begin to not like yourself. You're not happy with yourself. You're not happy with the relationship. And then this carries over into other areas that could be pure, clean, unadulterated, but yet you're bringing this baggage in. You're bringing these unhappy feelings in. The fact that you've been stonewalled, the fact that you can't communicate. You hold on to this subconsciously, and so it'll prohibit you from being able to feel functional, particularly in other settings, other work settings, other relationships, because other relationships will tend to mimic that pattern. So it's memorized, rehearsed, and then stored in the body for a way of going about and relating to others. So in other words, you can meet completely different people, yet you find yourself wanting to shut yourself down. In other words, you'll find opportunities to perpetuate this dysfunction. It's like you become addicted to the dysfunction. It becomes so patterned and so integral to you that you can't learn new thought patterns, new feeling patterns, new behaviors, new choices that will help you break that cycle and break out of that sort of cocoon, if you will, that is created. It's a dysfunction that is created. And so someone has to be the bigger person. Someone has to be the one to basically stop the silent treatment. In other words, just let it go in that relationship. If you're in a relationship with someone who is using very maladaptive relationship manipulations, intentions, their intentions are, or even for each other now, are to make each other feel bad and pout and storm out of the room, and and people are slamming the doors, or they're giving each other snide looks. That is just a way. It's basically saying we need more information in order to communicate here. So especially when you're working with or in a relationship with a covert narcissist, the world becomes very small. You become to see things very narrowly defined, as is defined by their put down. So they're not remembering where they came from. They're not remembering that they're a person, that you're a person. They're seeing too much beyond the relationship, like, you're my daughter, you should be this way. That's how the covert narcissist thinks. They don't understand how other people feel. They don't, they're not like open-minded to other people's perspectives. Why would you want to pursue this job? This is in the country. Why would you want to pursue this job? This is in the city. Why would you want to work here? Why would you want to do this? Why do you want to do that with your life? Why do you want to spend your money on this? So there's always this questioning and doubt, and you feel ground down by it. So, sometimes when you work together, it can soften the edges. And when you have, functional relationships, it's a buffer. When you have healthy relationships, you feel like it takes the edge off. You feel like you can smile. You have eye contact. You have the feeling of fellowship. You feel like you're grounded. In other words, you've got you're making sense. It's not like you're all over the place, but yet you feel that you can also entertain new ideas, new solutions. You don't have to resort to a dysfunction. There's a functionality. And then as relationships function, they actually improve. They get better. They tend to, you keep each other sharp with time. It's like the spark and flint. One is the flint and just makes the other ignite, and then the one is serving their purpose. So it's a very, very fulfilling situation to have functional relationships. But if you're finding that you're in a very dysfunctional, where you're kind of mimicking or having to mirror back, no one is being the adult with the covert narcissist. They have maladaptive ways of viewing the world. In other words, if you're not such and such a way, if I'm not controlling you in this manner, then I'm not effective father, or I'm not superior enough. They want to have that feeling of superiority. They can't, they're very uncomfortable if you're not meeting those expectations. But it doesn't mean that you're falling short. It doesn't mean that you're not a good family member, or you're a good colleague, or you're a good worker. It just means that they are perpetuating a dysfunction. It's very rigid in thinking. The covert narcissist in particular is very rigid in their communication. There's not a lot of openness, open air for discussion. It can be very tense, very terse, very rigid. There's not a lot of, coming and having fruitful discussion. So I'm saddened to hear that, and it's something within me that I hope that you are able to understand that it's really important for you to be able to break the cycle. When you break the cycle in relationships, it basically means, if they continue to zig, you're going to zag. You're basically going to develop new thoughts, new behaviors, new choices, and just take responsibility and accountability and reinforce yourself so that you're changing, you're growing, and you do it without the other person's permission. So oftentimes the guilt of change is what holds people back. They're too guilty to let the relationship go. They're too guilty to disappoint, particularly a covert narcissist. But don't perceive yourself through their eyes. Perceive yourself through your eyes. You have what it takes. You've got 2 eyes, 2 ears, 10 fingers, 10 toes. You are a whole person. Begin to see things through your own eyes and being able to process and really work them through in the way that you want to communicate. And if you're in a relationship where you're not able to express yourself freely, then you say, aha, I'm in a relationship that I cannot express myself freely. There's not a give and take. I'm not getting what I need. And even if this person is a parent, a spouse, a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief, it doesn't matter their title, it doesn't matter their role. If you're not getting your needs met, then that's a very good sign and heed that you should pay attention to it, because when you do, you are catapulted and you're thrusted in the right direction. In other words, you begin to say, okay, what do I need? I need someone who will listen. Where can I find this? Can I join, is there a group? Is there something on meetup.com where there's at least a group going on that has something of interest to me? Can I go and see what groups there are within 25 miles of myself? Can I take another work class at a library or a junior college? Or can I go to, a bookstore? Can I read and learn about myself and creating and open up my creativity? Can I learn some like do-it-yourself books where you can learn to do gardening or computer programming or other things of interest that you might have an aptitude for, but you'll never be able to encounter it. You'll never be able to encounter your strength if you're in a relationship with someone who is using these very manipulative, derogatory control tactics. In other words, oftentimes they're holding people up to a standard which, it's not reciprocal. They don't hold themselves up to the same standard. In other words, if I was to replicate this, you're not this in a way, well, you're not this in this way. And then it just becomes waffling, and you just end up, occurring and creating more scar tissue and damage in the relationship emotionally. It doesn't get you anywhere. So you've got to break the cycle. And the narcissist, oftentimes, it's very difficult to have closure or discussion because they don't feel that they've done anything wrong. They're in a place of righteousness. I am right. You are wrong. This is the only way. You are not doing what's best for the family. You're not doing what's best for the company. You're not doing what's best for you. Everything is, you are not. It's always about defining you in the negative. And so that's when we see the negative validation problems going on, where people then are they have an identity that is based on negative validation. In other words, their identity is based on who they're not, what they don't have, versus who they are, what they have, what their strengths are, what their shining moments are, what they are gifted at, what they are interested in. And so people go through life after these stonewalled relationships that continue to fester on, untreated, not recognized, not spoken up out of. The silent treatment, then gives you the silent treatment again, and then you begin this all or nothing thinking, black or white thinking. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to have any job. I'm not going to have any friends. I'm not going to have any fun. And everything is storming. And then next thing you know, you've wasted months or years of your life. If you could break the cycle and get into more your own voice and satisfying your needs. So it's not going to be validated by them. That is the problem. They're not going to be able to validate you in the way that you need to because they lack empathy. They can't understand where someone is coming from. They're all they can see is the projection of their righteousness. They can't see the good that you are. They're not able to see it and witness it. It's a flaw of some people who lack empathy. And so oftentimes people feel unheard, unrecognized, unacknowledged, unlistened to, and they just feel like there's a big gaping hole in themselves that is missing. And then it becomes many more holes, and then they wonder why they don't have any energy, they don't have any interests, they don't have any friends. It's because then they're defined by the I am not. I don't have. I am not good enough. It's rather than defined by the positive. So become very aware and sensitive to the fact that this can happen when you're in a relationship with a covert narcissist, but you have to break the cycle. I can't repeat that enough. And it's very difficult. It can be very frustrating, to feel like, I'm having to go through a feeling of loss. The fact that, I love this person and I cannot love them and communicate in the way that I want to. My good intentions are met with deaf ears, or they're misinterpreted. We have problems of perception. things are taken the wrong way. And then likewise, then back and forth, you feel like you're taking things the wrong way. And so it becomes a whole mishmash, especially when you're getting into situations of really the, and I'm trying to hold this camera here. I think I have to lay back a moment. It becomes really a feeling of, I'm not getting anywhere. And it's just, and then you dig a deeper hole. So you have to kind of get to the surface and which is the awareness, and say, I'm crawling out of here and I'm giving myself permission. So it's a permission-based release. And you can only give yourself that permission once you recognize that you are a person of worth. Even though this person hasn't mirrored it, reflected back, you're not feeling it, you're not feeling the love, you're not seeing the high five, the hugs, the kisses, the what are you doing next year? Can I help you? You're not getting the support that you need from that relationship. And, I don't want to say it's the older person who should be the bigger person, but you're going to have to be the bigger person with the narcissist. You're going to have to be the one who's going to be proactive. You're going to have to be the one that takes initiative. You're going to have to be the one to make a choice. You're going to have to be the one to make the big leap. You're going to have to be the one to say, I'm opening my eyes because that's why my eyes were given to me. I'm going to seek and surround myself with people who will help me to satisfy those personal needs that I have that are unmet here. So the need to communicate and be heard, but don't seek the approval of the covert narcissist. Realize that that can be a real perpetual problem, is that there's an incessant, obsessive need oftentimes to get their approval, to get their validation. Finally, I've hit the standard that you're looking for a father. Finally, I've hit the standard that you're looking for a mother. Finally, I've hit the standard spouse, colleague, boss, community, society, life. Finally, life, I'm the so it has to be, you need to really identify your own standards and really bring these out from within and know what they are. And so it's to say, what, I need to be able to have fun. And what does that look like for me? Not what my parents say, not what society says. I'm not hurting anybody, but what does fun look like to me? Is it riding horses? Is it riding a bike? Is it going to yoga? Is it learning to knit? Is it learning to make a pillow? Is it, learning to meet up with people, or going to movies, or being like a movie buff or a book buff? Am I interested in biologies on people? Am I interested in music? Can I, expand these interests? And can, even if I'm superficially now interested in just these little things, can I at least wet my whistle on it? Can I wet my beak on it? Can I go in and then just seek a little bit and feed the inner well, fill the inner reservoir with what you need? So if you need to be heard, then go and surround yourself with people where there is discussion. If you really are gregarious and saying, peace and harmony, I like to be around a lot of people, or I'm more introverted right now, I just want to either do one-on-one stuff or more introverted stuff, then you might find that you have a knack for reading or writing or crossword puzzles or doing puzzles, or quilting, working with fabrics, things that catch your eye. Pay attention to things that catch your senses in a positive way, and then you're feeling more of the positive feelings well up within you, because the covert narcissist is not going to go out of their way to say, hey, why don't you, do this or that, or, how are you feeling today? Oftentimes there's not that open discussion. So don't continue the stonewall. Don't continue to perpetuate the patterns of dysfunction which you find set up in these malignant narcissist or psychopathic relationships. Be able to say, you know what, I have the courage, audacity, and bold enough that I deserve better. I deserve to have those needs met. And I feel that swelling up within my gut that I need to surround myself with people, places, events, situations where I can feel good. And I now need to be clear enough where I can identify what that is. So clarity to me might mean learning about the internet. Clarity to me might mean working on software programs. Clarity for me might mean, learning how to get physically fit or become a teacher, to work with children and develop your passion. So that is going to be your really marching orders that you bestow upon yourself. It's the syllabus of your life. It's the marching orders of your life. But you can't be clear about you want until you see yourself. I am a teacher. I am driving a BMW. I am swimming in a natural lake. I am walking the lake, the coastlines of Hawaii. You know, I am driving a Harley super glide or whatever you call those. I am sailing a cigar boat or whatever you call those boats, or, you know, I am. And then you focus on the I am, and then all the supporting things that will lead to that will begin to be furnished by your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind wants to satisfy the commands, but you have to give it a clear command. Well, peace and harmony, I haven't been clear in my thoughts before. Okay, no, we're not going to worry about that. That is okay. Oftentimes, if you're in dysfunctional relationships, you feel like you don't know your voice and you can't articulate it because you haven't practiced it enough. This person hasn't allowed you to blossom, to bloom, to spread your wings, to soar like the eagle that you are. It's very difficult. Only very specific people are a match with dysfunctional people. And so don't be ashamed. Don't feel like you're letting life down because you don't want to perpetuate dysfunctional relationships. Even though it hurts, even though it's scary, it's saying, okay, I'm going to take an action step in the right direction where I'm surrounding myself and seeking out people, places, and situations which are going to bring me to life, which bring me life, which bring me joy. And not because I don't have to share this with this covert narcissist. Let's put up a boundary. This is me, this is them. This is me, this is them, and I am here. This is my personal space. This is my God-given place of energy and perspective, and I'm gonna have a healthy perspective. I'm gonna have healthy motivation. I'm gonna have healthy intent when I go about my day, my choices, my decisions. I'm going to execute it with balance. I'm gonna execute it with self-love, meaning validation of myself and giving myself the internal dialogue that you need to hear. Good job today on making decisions for how you spent your time. And you tell yourself, good job today, you did really well, that was amazing how you performed this month. This is amazing how you performed today. You handled that like a pro. Begin to give yourself compliments. Begin to say, you know what, I'm not that bad. And not that you should vocalize it, I would highly recommend not vocalizing, I'm not that bad, why are you stonewalling me? You know, you don't want to go, you don't want to get into, you know, this sort of dialogue with a covert narcissist. You don't want to start to, you know, get into bitter and spat. It's just what we call an exercise of futility. What you definitely want to work on is your own boundaries and standards, supporting that, enforcing that, and making sure that you're around people, places, situations where you can have that exchange. So if you take a moment now in the privacy of this video and say, if I could list on a page 1 through 20, where are 20 places, people, things, events, and situation which catch my eye, which seems like there's a lot of functional people there that I would feel comfortable in my next stage of development just going there. You know, it doesn't mean you have to, you know, meet your utmost, you know, ultimate goals and objective, but what is my next step? And then what is my next step after that? And then my next step. In other words, am I going to research things? Am I going to research things on the internet? Am I going in person? Am I saying hi to people who would be more healthy for me to be around? Or am I sabotaging myself? I'm going to eliminate my self-sabotaging behaviors. I'm going to eliminate my self-sabotaging choices. I'm going to eliminate my self-sabotaging feelings, and I'm going to correct my feelings, correct my thought, do an attitude adjustment, adjust my perspective, and say, I'm not going to see things through the lens of a covert narcissist. I'm going to see things through self-reflection, self-empathy, and self-validation. And I'm not going to resort to the dysfunction. It's better for me to be alone than around dysfunctional people. And I can furthermore identify and seek those environments and situations which will be healthier for me, and I'm doing it now. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion. and support.